we've talked a lot about this in between media this season. There's going to be curveballs coming your way.
Hate's a strong word. I dislike Kirk Cousins more than probably any other quarterback.
Because I get a little bit of that rookie-itis,
I would have said, I would love some of what you're smoking.
Even though I'm straight, I'm still stuck between an interpretation, what it all means. Can I make a difference or something different? My mind in prison, then I saw the vision. Played the field, it's no competition. Found success through the repetition. If it's impossible, stick to the mission. I'm just cruising through on my way to get it. I found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. Found myself somewhere in between. Yeah, I found myself somewhere in between. The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
So one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super fantasy related.
Do what you can to become a better person, to become a better human.
All right. Welcome in, everyone. It's week 6 of the NFL season. It's October 12th already. This is the In Between Fantasy Football Podcast, your spot for both some feel-good lifestyle advice and some fantasy football advice as well. Guys, we are here today thanks to some Dayquil, some ibuprofen, some of Katie's homemade ramen soup. Nate, Scott, my fearless guys, how are you doing tonight? How are you feeling?
I'm good, man. It's another rainy, stormy night in Seattle, which this time of year I just love it. I love being kind of hunkered down inside with it raining outside, leaves changing color, falling, football. It's just one of my favorite times of the year. So, and luckily I'm not on any kind of Dayquil or ibuprofen regimen at the moment. I got really sick when I was really young, and I don't know what that did, but I just don't get sick. I never get sick, which...
Iron Man. We got an Iron Man down there.
Yeah, right?
Jen and I were the same way until we had a kid. And then it was like every time he came home with something, we caught it.
That's the thing is, like, we have 2 kids, and they all, always come home. And these days when they come home with a sniffle, it's off to the rapid COVID test station.
Right.
But I dodge it. I don't know how. I don't know why. But.
I will say, in my experience in being sick, they've made the COVID testing a lot better recently than it was, last March or so. I remember getting one that they really jammed it up in there, and now it's more just like
They have us. We do it ourselves now at the testing station near our house. They have us do it ourselves.
Okay.
Which is interesting because I'm not willing to go very far.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny when we had to take our COVID test to come home from Mexico to get back into the United States. They were like, this is a much easier test. We don't go that far up your nose. It's easy. And then the dude shoves the thing up my nose. I'm like,
Yep.
Thought I was going to die for a second. So, so fun.
Well, guys, I'm happy we're here. We are still breathing. So it's a good day for me. Tonight on the show, we got a packed one. We're going to break down the latest news, talk about some studs and duds, matchup management, how we're feeling about playing these guys heading into week 6 here. We're going to break down the latest news, some injury stuff, some breakouts, headline hijinks style, sure thing sleepers of the week as well as always. And yes, guys, we are going to talk about the John Gruden situation, what that kind of means for the Raiders and fantasy football moving forward. We'll discuss that towards the end of the show. If you guys do have any questions here, we did put a comment up, but if you do have any questions or want to interact with us at all, we love hearing your guys' comments, feedback, any questions you guys have. We do need you to put that on YouTube right now. Some of the StreamYard equipment right now not taking Twitter comments. So if you want to comment on the show, want to ask us any questions, head over to our YouTube channel. We appreciate that, guys. Nate, Scott, week 6 is here, baby. Really decisive time in the season. So I think we might as well jump into it.
Guys, when is Cam Newton going to land somewhere?
I don't know, man.
I'm not sure.
He might be like Canadian football or like fan-controlled football bound eventually. I XFL if that ever comes back.
Russell Wilson's the latest injury, so the talks sparked immediately after that. I'll bring Cam Newton to Seattle. As a Seahawks fan, no, thank you. I have nothing against Cam Newton, but I don't think that would be any better at this point than Geno Smith.
So just a quick question, though.
Sure.
They brought in Blake Bortles for a workout today. How do you feel about that? Cam Newton or Blake Bortles?
Wow, that caught me off guard. I did not realize that Blake Bortles had come in for a visit. I mean, if I had to choose between one of those two at this point, I'd probably choose Cam Newton. He's at least played recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Bortles has a cool house and everything, but like Cam's played recently.
Fair.
Guys, talking about a Russian dynamic quarterback, let's talk about Lamar Jackson in this wild Monday Night Football game. If you guys had any of these Ravens players, whether it was Hollywood Brown, Mark Andrews, Lamar, you're probably like me. You're sitting there halfway through the third quarter. Hollywood didn't have a reception yet. Mark Andrews had 10 points or so, and Lamar Jackson was still in single digits. Fumble went down to, I think it was like 7 points. They come all the way back, guys. It was just a truly insane game, probably one of the best of the season so far. My headline for this game and what we witnessed on Monday night is Buckwild in Baltimore, because it really was Buckwild. I know I had some friends there who just said the atmosphere was awesome. Super happy to see that. Lamar, guys, he goes for completes 37 of his 42 passes, goes for 442 yards and 4 touchdowns. Adds another 62 on the ground. For Mark Andrews, guys, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Hollywood Brown, all in the second half, man. 9 receptions, 125 yards, 2 tutties for him. Guys, I want to start off asking what was your guys' just like not fantasy perspective, but just like fan perspective watching this last night?
For me, it was just, so there's been a ton of the way I'm kind of looking at it. There's been a ton of injuries. We're all aware of that. But on the flip side, if there's any kind of balancing going on by the fantasy gods out there, we have been blessed with a lot of really, really good football games. Mm-hmm. Just back and forth. Cleveland Chargers game was insane. The Packers-Bengals game was insane for weird reasons. But, man, that Monday night game was – and for it to be the Ravens to do that in the second half, it's just we're so used to the Ravens being this run-heavy team that, if they get down in a shootout, that it's just over. But, it was a sight to behold, in my opinion. The Colts – they basically blew that game, but credit where credit's due. Lamar, I think I saw the stat today. Can't remember what it was. It was first quarterback in NFL history with a certain amount of passing yards, a certain amount of pass attempts, and being above 80% completion percentage. First one ever.
Yep.
Yep.
There it is.
It was over 400 yards and 40 attempts, I think, is what it was.
Slack, Brad.
That's what he does.
Yeah, I know.
Nate, what was your takeaway from this, man? Just like from a fan perspective.
So, as most of you know, if you're watching the show, we were in a family reunion in Ohio over the weekend, and our travel home day was Sunday. So I got to watch literally like no football all weekend. It wasn't possible. I caught about 2 minutes of the Bronco game as we were getting ready to go through security in Columbus. It was the first opportunity I had. So we didn't get to watch the first half of that game. And before we turned it on, Jen said, I don't know if I want to watch this game. It's been really boring. Then we looked at each other like, yeah, but these teams, it's going to be an exciting second half. And man, talk about if that's the only half of football I got to watch all weekend, what a half to get to watch. I think what all of the people that said Lamar Jackson couldn't throw the ball, I hope that they're eating their crow today, because we saw what he can do when he has to do it. And that was unbelievable. Lamar Jackson balled out. Like, should he be in the MVP conversation again?
I think so.
Did we just see?
Absolutely. Yes.
And Hollywood Brown, like, can we put the worries about Marquise Brown being Hollywood to rest. He had an off year last season, but everybody did. It was a weird season. It was a weird year with COVID. Hollywood Brown looked phenomenal last night. He looked like a wide receiver one.
He's looked that way all season, guys.
Yes.
We've had a lot of, not up and down for Lamar. He's been pretty consistent across the board. He's right now QB3 on the season. Marquise Brown, wide receiver 5 on the season. Mark Andrews in that top 5 discussion once again here. Where do you guys see the realistic expectations for the Ravens? Because my thought process, my biggest takeaway from this outing was that the Ravens are shifting who they are as a team right now. They don't have the running backs that they used to have. I mean, someone needs to get Latavius Murray off the field. I mean, every time they give him the ball, my soul dies just a little bit. Yes, I'm a Tyson Williams fan and a Lamar Jackson fantasy manager. But at the same time, it's so frustrating to see Latavius Murray run, at most 5 yards into the offensive lineman and not go much farther. Right now, guys, they're averaging 30.4 rushing attempts per game. That's 6th in the NFL compared to the last 2 seasons where they were the number 1 team, averaging over 34, almost nearly 35 rushing attempts in 2019, 2020. So are you guys as bought in on the Ravens passing game as I am? Because I don't think this running back situation is getting sorted out. Like, we're hearing trade rumors that one of these running backs could be on the move.
I'm sold on the passing game. I was sold on it before. I didn't buy into the Lamar can't throw the ball hype, whatever you want to call it, the narrative. But now that they actually have to do it, and we've got Rashad Bateman coming back.
Yeah.
So that offense only gets more dynamic in the passing game. I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just shows. I mean, Harbaugh they've adjusted as needed. They had not 1 but 2, starting caliber running backs go down with injury. And add to that, their defense has not been what it has been in years past either.
No,
they've been pretty good against wide receivers, but I mean, they've been terrible against running backs. So, it's kind of a product of necessity because of a lack of depth and talent in the running back room. And they're just in higher scoring games. The 10-7 Steelers-Ravens games of the past are, at least for this season, I don't think that's going to be the case. So, and I mean, they've adjusted as they've needed to. And Lamar has shown that he can. And I mean, for all the disappointment that we had that Rashad Bateman went there on draft night, I'm pretty excited he went there now.
Yeah. The pie is definitely bigger in Baltimore for sure. The defense has not lived up to what we've seen in the past from guys like Jimmy Smith, Marlon Humphreys, Calais Campbell. Outside of blocking a couple kicks this season, has not been himself. Still waiting for Patrick Queen to come on a little bit more. He's been solid on that defensive side. But, Scott, I think you nailed it here, man. It's a bigger pie this year. They don't have the running backs, and the defense just is not as good. So I think right now, if you have these Ravens players, you sit pretty. Maybe I try to trade Latavius Murray when I can, but that's just me.
Good luck.
Moving forward, guys, here, I did want to talk about another dynamic performance by a young quarterback, and that was Justin Herbert, guys, going over 40 fantasy points in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues. Him and the Chargers have looked exceptional this year. They have a really nice gap now for that AFC West. Of course, with him going wild, it also continues Mike Williams going wild. Mike Williams right now, wide receiver 2 on the season. He's been up in that range since about, week 2 after week 1. Scott, I know you nailed him after week 1 as one of those guys who could continue that pace. I do want to go to you, Scott. What is your headline here for what we saw out of Herbert and the Chargers?
Mine is what it will always be when Justin Herbert goes off, and it's Herbie Goes Bananas, based off an old movie series where there was this Volkswagen bug that was alive or something.
Herbie the Love Bug.
Sure, yeah. I don't really remember the movie, but anytime Justin Herbert goes off, that's what pops into my mind. I tweeted out a picture of the movie poster yesterday. I love it. One of my closest friends grew up in San Diego, and I early on chose to go ahead and start rooting for the Chargers with him, just because they didn't really ever do anything, and I didn't see why not. The Seahawks were no longer in the AFC West, So I've kind of rooted for the Chargers. Sorry, Nate, but and just to see Herbert, like, because coming into the season I was really high on him, and there was still just this this hesitation, sophomore slump.
Mm-hmm.
But just with those weapons, with a healthy Austin Eckler, I just saw it as a very potent offense. And I mean, he delivered in a big way. Mike Williams. I mean, I think everybody got a little bit scared during week 4, because Mike Williams had 4 targets. But it was kind of a strange game. They didn't really need it. They jumped out to kind of a big lead. And honestly, the Raiders have been really good against wide receivers specifically. So that now we have, I think, enough of a sample size where in the past, a big blow-up game by Mike Williams might have been the outlier amongst a bunch of mediocrity. Now I think that 4-target game is the outlier, because every other game, I mean, this game he had 16 targets. I mean, just ridiculous.
Nate, I want to throw it over to you. A couple weeks ago on the show, we discussed between the three of us where we saw Mike Williams finishing for the season. I think we can all say we have Austin Eckler as a top 5 back the rest of the season. He's been phenomenal. Outside of Derrick Henry right now, I don't know who you want on your fantasy back or as your fantasy RB1. So, talking Mike Williams here, obviously him and Keenan Allen, they're both top 5 in the NFL in targets right now. So we know they're dynamic. We know they're going to be good. But Williams seeing a higher, more valuable targets with those deep shots, and they're connected. Where do you see both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen finishing the season?
So I think there's a chance Mike Williams finishes as a wide receiver 1. Keenan Allen, probably a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, just because of the quality of targets. If things continue as they are, I see a scenario where we see Keenan Allen as a high-end wide receiver 2 and Mike Williams as a high-end wide receiver 1 as well, because Justin Herbert can sling the ball. And if you're going to consistently win that way without having to run Eckler a ton, you keep doing it. And if you get into some of these higher scoring games, the Chiefs are going to rebound, and the next time they play, that's going to be a shootout. These are games where Allen, Williams, and Eckler are all getting a ton of targets. So there's a range of outcomes. What I think is most likely is we have Williams as a low-end wide receiver 1, and Keenan Allen is like a mid-range wide receiver to back-end range wide receiver 2.
Yeah, I think what the difference is really, and it's been Keenan's kind of limitation his whole career, is touchdowns. He's always getting the targets. He's always getting the yards. That's kind of the type of receiver he is. He's still been getting averaging around 10 targets a game. He had over 100 the first 2, 6 catches for 75 this week, just no touchdowns. So, I think he's still a very reliable PPR receiver. I just think his ceiling is even more capped now because of the emergence of Mike Williams. So I agree with Nate. I'm a little bit, it's kind of bittersweet because I love seeing this happen for Mike Williams and all the people that kind of patiently stuck with him. But it's hindered Keenan Allen. He has not been what was expected. I had Keenan Allen right at the end of the high-end wide receiver 2, So at least for now, it has impacted Keenan Allen's production.
I think right now Keenan Allen might be a buy low trade target, to be honest. I bet there's some managers out there who might think they don't have what they thought they had. He's wide receiver 28 right now in PPR, full point PPR format. So if I'm I don't know, I'm trying to trade up for him if I have someone else who's disappointed, even like a Robert Woods or an Allen Robinson, package that with a capable RB, get yourself a Keenan Allen. I think I might go out and try to make a trade like that. I got a couple Allen Robinsons I need to get rid of.
I think you're right, because honestly, like I said, Keenan's been productive. He just has the one touchdown. If he scores another touchdown right now, that wide receiver 28 jumps up.
Yeah,
we're maybe not as concerned. This early in the season, it still is dictated a lot by who scores the touchdowns. So I agree. I think if people are like, oh no, Keenan, he's a great buy low target.
Guys, I do want to move forward because it seems like we saw a wide receiver breakout, a rookie one of that notion this last week. It was Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney, after the injuries to Darius Slayton, obviously at least Sterling Shepard was out of this one as well. And we saw Kenny Golladay go down after just 3 targets. It was the Kadarius Toney show. Has over 30 PPR points. a headbutt on the sideline, a thrown punch. So a little bit of everything from Tony there. Right now, a lot of the mainstream media is putting Tony as maybe the number one waiver wire target of the week. I know he's already kind of picked up in a lot of my leagues, but Nate, what is your headline here for Kadarius Toney and what we saw on Sunday?
Tony it down, folks. Let's not get crazy here. There are a lot of, now I'm not saying in Dynasty, which we are not currently talking about, I'm holding Tony where I have him because his potential is through the roof. That said, in redraft, here's my issue. You were missing Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, and Kenny Golladay, and Saquon Barkley. So you're looking at an offense that was looking at Kadarius Toney, Evan Ingram, and Devonta Booker to carry the load of targets and carries. That's where the volume of that offense went. What happened when they did that? They got blown out by and to be fair, a really good Cowboys team, but they got blown out by 24 points. I like what I saw out of Tony. I think that he's going to be a star in this league, but this isn't a season where I'm going to spend a lot of fab, or I'm not going to, or use a high waiver priority on him if I don't need a receiver. Because I don't think he can replicate this. Do I think we could see the neighborhood where it's like 8 targets, 6 catches, 70 to 80 yards? Maybe he snags a touchdown one week. Maybe he doesn't. Yes.
So Nate, it sounds like, because there's kind of two different ways it can go here. Like, there's multiple, but it comes to mind, like some people, I've heard the name Justin Jefferson being thrown out there today and what he did his rookie season. And I also have heard, like, what you kind of described almost sounded like a T. Higgins rookie season. Is that kind of what you're projecting, is a T. Higgins, like top 36 wide receiver?
I could see that. There's just the thing is, for me, is that there's a lot of competition for targets in that offense. Saquon, when he comes back, is going to get targets. Darius Slayton is going to get targets. Sterling Shepard is definitely going to get targets because when he's been on the field, he's been electric. Kenny Golladay, when he's healthy, he's going to get targets. They spent money on him. So
Evan Ingram also.
Well, yeah, I already talked about Evan Ingram. He was on the field with him. There are so many people in this offense that are going to get looks. It was great to see him explode this week with the injuries, what he was able to do. I'm just saying that this season, that's not going to be his role. He was a nice fill-in. We saw some great stuff. Dallas's defense has been good. I wouldn't call them exceptional, though Bo will probably argue with me about that. But they've been good, but they're not all world. This was a great performance. Don't pick him up on the waiver wire expecting it to happen again or anything even remotely close. Not this season.
Can I go now?
Yes, yeah. All you, man. I feel like you have a little rebuttal coming.
This should be fun because I do agree with the concerns and some of the factors that led to a 189-yard game for a rookie. But I guess maybe I've drank the Kool-Aid. First of all, I've never been more wrong about somebody as far as I was mocking the Giants on draft day for drafting him in the first round, like during all the rookie drafts. I was like, no way. Not really having done any homework, just kind of following the crowd a little bit. But for me, what I saw, and I've heard a few other people said this today, yes, these other pass catchers are going to come back. But what Tony showed, it's almost like you can't unring that bell. Like, targets are very much earned. And I just think that he has made a huge statement, regardless of why, that he deserves and he can produce with targets. I think he is ahead of Darius Slayton when he comes back. I think he'll take work from him. Sterling Shepard will be Sterling Shepard. Evan Ingram can't stay healthy or catch the ball. Saquon also can't really seem to stay healthy. So, yes, in a perfect world, when all of those players are back and healthy at the same time, yes, that I think caps Tony's upside for this season. But even what you said, the 8 targets, 6 catches, 70 to 80 yards, and maybe a touchdown here and there, that's what I want off waiver wires, to be honest. Like, that's
fair enough.
What I'm looking for at this point. So me personally, I see Tony like, because you've got Tony, you've got Daryl Williams, you've got Devonta Booker, you've got these waiver wire options. I am I am Tony all the way as and anybody in my league turn it off so you don't hear who I'm trying to go after on waivers. But I'm all over Tony. I'm spending fab on Tony. I'm not. I already picked up Damian Williams last week. I'm not super interested in another mediocre 2-week, 3-week running back rental. And if I'm wrong on Tony in his rookie year, fine. But I think it's worth the risk. What he showed, people could not guard him. Like, they just were not able to guard him. And, the whole he's a gadget guy, blah, blah, blah. Gadget guys don't get 13 targets regardless of what the situation is. So,
yeah,
I'm much higher on him.
Excited to see how it plays out, guys. Just real quickly, I just want to go around the room. If you had to pick one Giants pass catcher to have on your team, not a running back, either a tight end or one of these four wide receivers, who would it be rest of season? Nate?
I'm probably still going to say Sterling Shepard.
Scott?
Kadarius Toney.
All right, I'm going to go Sterling Shepard too, but I think the gap's closing a little bit. Definitely want to see what it's going to be with Sterling Shepard back out on the field, guys. Let's go ahead and move forward in the show here to a new segment on the show, matchup management. This week, matchup management is presented by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. If you guys haven't been playing Underdog Fantasy this season, I highly suggest you go over to Underdog Fantasy, grab the app, whether it's the Google Play app, whether it's the iTunes app, whatever it is, go over there, download it. Guys, they have 3-man, 5-man drafts that you can be playing. We've been having a lot of fun every Sunday on the DFS Tailgate Show. We do some pick 'em parlays where you can, wager a little bit amount of money. And if you hit one of these parlays, 3, 4, even 5-leg parlays, it can really, really cash in. I saw a couple people who played it for the first time this last week hit a couple $100 on a couple big parlays. So guys, it's a lot of fun. It's really easy. Head over to Underdog Fantasy. If you're going to head over there, make sure you use our promo code IBT. And when you deposit $10, we'll give you $10 in credit. Thank you to our friends over there, Underdog. Let's go ahead and head into some matchup management.
Who you got?
Matchup management.
Who's it gonna be?
All right, guys. So you know how this works. On a scale from 1 to 10, how excited are you to start this player in Week 6? I want to start out with Allen Robinson. We talked a little bit about him earlier. Just been a huge disappointment for a guy you were getting in the 3rd round. I thought there was a safe floor. I thought he was quarterback proof. Pie on my face, Scott. I know you ranked him high as well. I think most of the community and the industry really did. So right now, guys, he has not reached double digits in 4 out of his 5 games. The only time he did reach double digits, 10.4 points. Just not getting it done right now. Honestly, he had a red zone target this last weekend. I was happy to see that. But overall, it's been a disappointing year for Allen Robinson. And he's been a trap. You haven't found a big game when you can trade him if you're a fantasy manager of him. And if you have him, you're probably playing him every week, and he's just been burning you, just absolutely burning you. Guys, this week he's got Green Bay. They're 11th ranked defense against the fantasy wide receiver. Where are you guys on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident you are?
This was a tough one. I put 4. And that might be even a little bit optimistic as far as how confident I am. But like you said, I had him ranked in the top 12. I also thought he was quarterback proof. And you're likely stuck with not many better options if you drafted him where he was going. So that's why it's a 4. I mean, the thing is, though, it's like, it'd be one thing if the Chicago passing game was flying up and down the field and A-Rob was just not a part of it. But it's been just a dumpster fire so far as their passing game. I mean, Allen Robinson, he has the only touchdown. He has the most touchdowns for Bears wide receivers. 1. There's been 1 touchdown thrown to a Bears wide receiver and 1 touchdown thrown to a Bears tight end. That's it. So the passing game has struggled as a whole, which wasn't super surprising starting the season off with Andy Dalton. The reason I'm still obviously holding him, I mean, you don't drop Allen Robinson, but the reason I still have a glimmer of hope is just I expect Justin Fields to get better. And I think when he gets better, I think everyone around him will as well. Because he's still a rookie, It might have been unrealistic to expect him to just come in and light the world on fire right away, as much as we all love Justin Fields and his potential. So not super excited against Green Bay, though.
Yeah. Nate, where are you? Scale 1 to 10. How confident are you?
1.5. I'm not starting him.
Okay.
I just don't see a reason to do it this week.
I feel trapped in one league, so I may be starting him, but I would say I'm probably about, like last week, I was maybe at a 4 this week after being burned by him 4 weeks in a row. I'm probably a 2. So we're weary. We do have a question here from Bars in the Truck on YouTube. Left field question of the week. My league, full PPR, gives points for return yards. Should I pick up Jamal Agnew since he's getting targets now? Plus the Jags D to double up if he gets a return TD. And it looks like he said I have a free spot with CH on IR. Okay, so super interesting. I've never played in a league that you get return yards, but something's going on there in Jacksonville. I actually think Jamal Agnew's a pretty good player. He's shown some spark, so I would not pick up the Jaguars D by any means. I would not, but I would definitely be down to ride up with Jamal Agnew if you're getting points for return yards. He looks like one of the best return men out there.
Yeah, I would agree. Oh, go ahead, Nate.
I was going to say, especially if you've already got a free spot with CH going on IR, I mean, might as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting to see his bump in actual targets as a receiver this week. But we've talked about it at length. No one really knows what's going on down there. But yeah, if you're getting points for return yards, I think that's a great flyer to take on your bench. But I agree. If you're taking the Jags D, you are banking on those return yards turning into return touchdowns, and the likelihood of that is much, much slimmer. Yes. And if you don't get a return touchdown, the Jags D is not going to be a good one.
No.
Yep. Yeah. Pass on Jags D. Jamal Agnew, definitely interesting. I would say something has to happen there in Jacksonville because Marvin Jones Jr., Laviska Shenault had less targets than Agnew. So I think something will happen. But if you're getting return yards, that's an interesting question. Feel free to. All right, guys. So next person here on our list of matchup management, Nate, how confident are you in Chase Claypool? Comes off another 24 PPR point performance. Right now, he's wide receiver 19 on a points per game basis. Obviously, we unfortunately saw Juju Smith-Schuster, the talented wide receiver there in Pittsburgh, go down for the season. Maybe his last in Pittsburgh. Right now that they have Seattle on the docket this week, ranked 26 to the wide receiver position, flooding a lot of points to that wide receiver position. Nate, how confident are you in Chase Claypool here in week 6?
I'm going to say 9. I like the matchup. I mean, with Juju gone, Ben hasn't looked as awfully awful as of late as he did earlier in the season. The Najee Harris,
Broncos,
right? You had to bring that up. Thanks, Seth.
Sorry.
To be fair, I have 2 Steelers jerseys, so I can't be that sad. But I like the Claypool situation this week. The Najee Harris target train has cooled down a little bit. And I think Claypool is going to factor into that offense pretty heavily, especially against a weaker Seattle defense that likes to give up points to the wide receiver in fantasy. 9.
I'm a big fat 10 on this one. The Seahawks secondary is a big giant mess right now. Trey Flowers wasn't really that great anyway. Asked to be released and got his wish. He was released. So they basically have DJ Reed, DJ Reed's been pretty good. And Sidney Jones, who I love Sidney Jones. He's a former UW Husky, but he's been terrible. So, that deep ball they gave up to Deshaun Jackson last week on 3rd and 10 was just to totally change the game. Was just unacceptable. And I think the safety help is going to rotate towards Deontay Johnson. I see Claypool going off against the Seahawks team.
Yeah, the price for Claypool might be questionably steep right now, but whatever it is, I'm probably trying to pay for it if I can trade for him. I think right now, even Deontay Johnson, who I was calling a bust at the beginning of the season because of the pie, I mean, I think right now I'm in on him too. If I can acquire any one of these guys, I'm in on it. I think, I'm a 9 or a 10. If Claypool cannot get it done this week, I don't know when he can. So I think we're all high on Chase Claypool. Want to move forward here, guys. Myles Gaskin. How about Mr. Myles Gaskin, man? The sure thing sleeper of the week, all 2020 long. I love that guy. RB19 right now after a 10 for 74 and 2 stat line through the air. So 10 receptions for Myles Gaskin, 2 touchdowns, an awesome 30 or 40 yard little flick over there from Brissett. That was really cool to see. 5 for 25 on the ground. This week he has Jacksonville, and we know how bad Jacksonville has been against the run. They just gave up another 130 burger to Derrick Henry, 3 tutties for him as well. Obviously, different caliber running back there. But are you guys excited to play Myles Gaskin this week on a scale from 1 to 10, keeping in mind that Dolphins could maybe get out to a lead and possibly want to work in more Malcolm Brown or Salvin Ahmed?
He didn't play this past week, did he?
I believe he was active, yes.
Oh, okay. I said 6 for Myles Gaskin. If you asked me a week ago, it would have been lower because he just had not done anything really of note. But I think he showed he still got the pass catching chops this past week, and Jacksonville is a good match. However, Jacksonville has been somewhat decent against pass-catching running backs. They've been pretty atrocious against running backs, but they've been okay, top 15 against pass catchers. And part of that's probably because the Titans didn't feel the need to throw it to their running backs. They just handed it to one of them.
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, I'm it's kind of how I felt about Myles Gaskin since the preseason. 5 or a 6, kind of a meh. Gaskin's a guy though. During Buy NATO Week 7, you're gonna want to roll out there.
Well, Scott, I guess we're not going to agree on anything tonight. I'm at like a 2. I'll start him if I have to this week because of the matchup, but I don't. He hasn't been productive this season, and 1 week doesn't make him worth much in my eyes. I need to see it a couple times, and I don't think we're going to see it again. I think that was it. I think this Miami offense isn't great, especially with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. I don't think they really know what to do. I think they're lost without Tua, which doesn't make sense because we were talking about them trading for Deshaun Watson. But they feel lost to me. And this week was Myles Gaskin week. Next week's probably not going to be Myles Gaskin week. Maybe. But if I have someone else to roll out, I'm not putting him ahead of most of the guys I have on my rosters.
I think right now with 4 teams on bye, I think I'm still sliding him in. I think I'm probably a 7. And you guys know I'm a Gaskin truther, so definitely a little bias coming on my end. But I think the PPR floor is going to be there. I can't explain really what happened in week 4. I don't understand how he only had those couple of touches. I can't explain that from an analysis standpoint, but I do still believe in Myles Gaskin. I think he's going to have that PPR floor. Jacksonville obviously gives him a higher ceiling. So I'm excited to see what he can do on the ground this week. Because like Scott said, they haven't been, super flooding points to the receiving backs, but more on the ground as we saw Sunday with Derrick Henry. So this could be a big game for Myles Gaskin to head in the right direction, even more so if he can get it going on the ground as well. Guys, I want to move to just a pair of waiver wire running backs. Just want to quickly touch on them. Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously goes out of Sunday's game. MCL sprain, you hate to see that. We don't know the timetable quite yet. We're not actually sure if it is an MCL sprain either, but that's what the rumor is out there. We should learn tomorrow for sure, but looks like Daryl Williams is going to be the guy. This is similar injury to what David Montgomery is dealing with as well. So about 4 to 5 weeks is probably what we're looking like with Clyde. We don't really know what his recovery speed is like as a pro. It's going up against Washington this week, Daryl Williams. I will say the Washington football team, the defense, we've talked about it a lot. They're a shell of themselves this year. 7 receiving TDs to opposing running backs in 5 games this year. Granted, 3 of those come to Cordell Patterson here in week 4, but that's still a handful of passing touchdowns going to the RB position. Scott, where are you at on Daryl Williams here, man?
I'm gonna backtrack on what I put into the show sheet a little bit. I put an 8, but I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit down to a 6. I think he's looked pretty solid in the work he's gotten, even with CEH in there. And that allure that got everybody to draft CEH last year in the first round of a piece of this offense is there. And if Kadarius Toney was not available this week, Daryl Williams would be my number one waiver ad. But to your point, the Washington football team does, on paper, when you look at the rankings, look like a really good matchup for running backs. But 3 of those touchdowns they gave up were to Cordero Patterson receiving touchdowns. So I know we can't really play the game, well, if you take that away this, but I mean, really, that was 3 touchdowns to a receiver really in that game. So I think they're a little bit more stout against the run than what the numbers show. They're horrible against the pass, absolutely god-awful against the pass. So I see this as a typical Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce type game. Daryl Williams, I think my excitement for him would be, garbage time. If they're way ahead, just feed him the ball. But I think Jerick McKinnon's going to get involved too.
Nate?
So I am at about an 8. And I think I was pretty vocal about this, that heading into this season, I thought that Daryl Williams was a better running back than CEH anyway. And it was disappointing. I get it. They drafted him early. They wanted to use him. They wanted to see what they have. But I think Daryl Williams is the better running back. And with CEH out, I think we're going to get to see Kansas City actually be able to kind of mix up their attack and actually effectively run the ball a little bit better than they could with CEH. Just because I think Daryl Williams
is a couple 100-yard games recently.
I know, and it's not to say, I'm not saying that he's trash. I just think Daryl Williams is a better running back, and I think he fits the scheme of that offense a little bit better than CEH does. I'm excited to see what he can do. If I had him, I would start him. I don't have him. But if I did, I would start him this week. I mean, I'm about an 8. I love it. I'm excited to see what he can do.
Nate, are you spending up fab to get him?
So I'm not in a position in any leagues to do that. I probably wouldn't, because you really shouldn't have to. I wouldn't think.
He's going to be going, man.
You think?
Yeah.
He's probably going 50%
if Elijah Mitchell went
of
for what he did, then the Chiefs starting running back's going to go for quite a bit more.
Good point. No, probably not. I probably wouldn't go crazy for him. I'm excited to see what he can do, but I kind of wonder what the real true ceiling for any running back in that Chiefs system is, for the reasons that Scott said. I still think Daryl Williams is the better running back, but there's a ceiling for a running back in that offense.
Nate's a stingy mother effer tonight. I'm not.
I know.
Nate's a stingy guy.
I'm stingy all the time.
Remind me not to take you out to dinner. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, Devonta Booker, he's another player right now. We've seen him throughout the career. Nate wrote a column on him earlier tonight and kind of talked about, it seems like every couple of years for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been talking about Booker, and he emerges as a waiver wire guy halfway through the years. I can literally remember picking him up using a waiver claim my freshman year of college. I'm 2 years removed from college now. So that tells you how long.
Year.
Yeah, that's how long Booker's been around. He's kind of been a factor in the fantasy scene for a while. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, just unlucky, gets rolled up on by a player here. Nasty ankle injury. We kind of saw that, how big that bulge was, how bad that was swollen up on Sunday on the broadcast. It's kind of gross they showed that, honestly. But they really wanted to make it clear that he was not coming back in the game. Obviously, gets the Rams this week, guys. He went over 20 points last week in Saquon's absence. The Rams, they're a great defense. We know what they are on paper. They're Aaron Donald up front. You can't really run to his side of the line. And Jalen Ramsey's a great cornerback in the secondary as well. They're about middle of the road to running backs, so they're not a stout defense to RBs by any means. Scott, where are you at on Booker, man? Are you throwing him out there?
If I have to, I have him at a 5, kind of the cop-out, middle ground response. To me, there's not really much exciting about Booker except volume, and which, I mean, you can't ignore it. He's gonna step into that starting role. But I mean, that offense has been, I'm not sure exactly where everybody stands injury wise at this point. Who's going to be there? Who's going to not this coming week? But in a pinch, I'll throw him into my flex. I mean, the problem is that with so many running back injuries, like some people, a player like Devonta Booker sitting there is like, oh yeah, definitely, I want to put them in so I don't have to start,
Allen Robinson,
Chris Evans or somebody like that. And I mean, we are a little bit lucky because there's 4 teams on bye this week, but it's not chock full of fantasy stars. I mean, we've got the Niners, we've got the Saints, we've got the Jets, and we've got the Falcons. So you've got some players missing. But yeah, I'm just not very excited. Like, I guess he's probably got a pretty safe floor, but there's just not really any ceiling with him. So
okay. 5. Nate, are you around that area too, you'd say?
Yeah, I'm at a 5.
Yes.
I've been burned by Devonta Booker so many times in my life, not just as a fantasy player, but as a fan of the Broncos.
Yeah.
I love that he gets the opportunity. And if you're looking for a medium floor, low ceiling running back just to fill a void next week, I don't mind it. But like I said about Kadarius Toney, keep in mind, the part of the reason that Booker got that volume was one, because obviously because Saquon Barkley was out, but also no Sterling Shepard, no Darius Slayton. So they needed to get the ball out somewhere. He was a part of that offense. They didn't have a whole lot of other options for Daniel Jones until Jones went down, of course. Play him next week. He'll maybe get you 10, 12, 13 points. Maybe he'll explode and have another 20-point game, which I find unlikely. He's done it 3 times in 6 seasons in his career with plenty of opportunity to do it. So, yeah, I'm like a 5. I'm not super excited about it. I don't hate it this week.
Yeah.
Long term, I don't like it at all. He's not a guy I want on my roster past next week.
I do want to add real quick, when we're talking about Daryl Williams and Devonta Booker, we've kind of been talking about how we feel about throwing them out there this week. But do keep in mind that while the buys are not that detrimental this week, Week 7 is bye insanity. There's 6 teams on bye. Not only are there 6 teams, but you've got Dallas, Buffalo. I tweeted out a list of the players that are going to be out. It's crazy. So even if you aren't going to start Daryl Williams or Devonta Booker, both of them are likely going to be playing in Week 7 as well as the starter based on the injuries to the people in front of them. So be looking at Week 7 now.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that, guys. And one thing, just keep in mind, I'll round out the conversation. Wayne Gallman last year was very productive with the same, different style Giants team, but he was productive. He was an RB1 for about a month stretch there. So I think Wayne Gallman is a better running back than Booker for sure. But something to keep in mind out there when you're spending your fab tonight. Guys, I do want to head into our next segment, Short Things, Sleepers of the Week. Yes, it's cold and flu season, but I still got that beach vibe in me, baby. And it is presented this week by Stevens Quality Barbering Services. That's our guy, Noah Stevens, up there in Kerwinsville, PA. Whether you live in Jefferson County, Clearfield County, Indiana County, Center County, McKean County, any of your western, central Pennsylvania counties, if you guys want a quality haircut at a quality price, and just have an overall quality experience, guys, head over down to Noah on State Street in Kerwinsville. You can go to stevens-quality.genbook.com to book an appointment today. He'll get you hooked up right, guys. Always hooks me up right. I have a hat on tonight, so you can't see the finished product, but I promise you, it's looking nice under there. It's looking nice. Let's go ahead and head into Sure Things, Sleepers of the Week.
It's the Sure Thing. Sleepers of the Week.
Okay. Here we go, guys. Scott, I want to throw it to you, man. Sure Thing, Sleeper of the Week. I don't know if you've been to the beach out there, the shore line out in Seattle lately, but it seems nice. I just saw a video on Twitter about someone who has a nice lake house. They're Dr. Kevin Murray. He had a nice draft out on his lake house there. It looks quaint. I want to go there. I want to be on that shore.
Yeah, I'm in a Pacific Northwest group chat with Dr. Kevin. He's talking about potentially doing a draft next year in these parts, I'd be stoked. No, I mean, I think I've talked about it. The beaches here are different, but there's tons of shoreline because the Puget Sound is a weird shaped group of islands and peninsulas and waterways, not too unlike Chesapeake Bay a little bit. Anyway, and I was out on the beach about a week and a half ago, and it's cold, but I still got the beach vibe. I got the beach vibe all season long. So my sure thing sleeper of the week is a Detroit Lion. So I'm already setting myself up for trouble, but it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. That was hard to get out. St. Brown with the Lions. Kind of a somewhat highly touted rookie out of USC, and 8 targets the last 2 games. He just all of a sudden started getting the volume. His snap percentage went up to around 70% the last 2 games. Nothing huge, 70 yards, 65 yards, no touchdowns. But that double digits PPR floor seems to have materialized for him. Seth is out with the broken collar. Have either of you ever broken a collarbone?
No, but it looks so painful.
It looks like so painful. Anyway, Seth is out with the collarbone. Hawkinson has been not great lately, and the Bengals are 5th overall against tight ends. They've been stingy against tight ends. So, I mean, I see this game coming up. They haven't been great against receivers. I see passes going through St. Brown and through DeAndre Swift, and I think he's a pretty safe. Especially in those leagues where you got 3 wide receivers or 2 flex spots, and it's PPR. He's a safe guy to throw in there to get you double-digit points.
I love that call.
Yeah, it's definitely been difficult with the Lions. TJ Hawkinson, he has less than a 20% target share, which I was expecting him to be up, pushing 24, 22% of that targets. It was funny on Sunday morning, I put out a Sunday brunch series, and I just picked 3 guys that you could get off the waiver wire or free agency on Sunday morning, plug them right into your lineups. I hit on Hunter Henry, hit on Marquez Callaway, and then I threw out Khalif Raymond. He had a really nice season up to that point and just had a 0 points here in week 5. So it does look like if you want a Lions receiver with Quintus Cephas out, Cephas looked really good these first couple weeks, so that just sucks. Tyrell Williams looks like he's going to miss this contest as well. So St. Brown, man, I've been in on him for a while, but I think if he's going to do something, it might not be the highest ceiling, but if you want a nice floor, I'm with you there, Scott.
Yep. Same.
Scott, I want to go from your rookie sure thing sleeper of the week to my savvy veteran sure thing sleeper of the week. I'm going to take you up to the colder part of New York in Buffalo there with Emmanuel Sanders. Who would have thought we'd be sitting here week 5? Emmanuel Sanders has not just outproduced Cole Beasley, and Cole Beasley's become irrelevant for fantasy football these last few weeks, but Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 2 in my book coming into the season. Emmanuel Sanders right now has more fantasy points, 4 TDs for Sanders through these 5 games, 52 yards per game as well. Getting about 6.2 targets per game. That seems to be increasing over the last few weeks after a little bit of a slow start. Last 3 weeks, guys, Manny Sanders, PPR wide receiver 11. He's been brilliant. Getting those TDs, like we said. Right now, he's going up against the Titans this week, which is the most generous team to fantasy wide receivers by a good margin. They've allowed 8 TDs to the position so far this week, so almost two per game. And also just the yardage, man. It's been yardage monsters against everyone they've been going up against. And let's not act like the Titans have had a super tough schedule so far. They've allowed big games from fantasy wide receivers from teams like the Jaguars, from the Colts, from the Jets, teams that you don't necessarily feel like have an alpha wide receiver. So I'm definitely firing up Manny Sanders if I have him this week. And I think he has a very high ceiling as well for someone who we consider a sleeper this week.
I love that. He's been nothing short of electric. And I love me some Manny Sanders. I mean, he helped bring a Super Bowl to my Denver Broncos. But he's an electric player, and he doesn't rely a lot on speed. So as he ages, he's a shifty route runner, and he finds ways to get open. We watched him do it in Denver. He's doing it in Buffalo. He's a perfect kind of wide receiver for Josh Allen. And we're seeing now what he's capable of in this offense. and it's amazing. And I think that he's someone that you need to continue to start. But people aren't doing it. Except, Seth, because you're Seth and you're smart.
I have Cole Beasley everywhere. I don't have Manny Sanders.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, you better go out and get him. I think we were all that way though.
Are you guys dropping Cole Beasley like sidebar? But are you guys dropping Cole Beasley right now? Or are you holding on to him?
Not yet.
Probably not.
Too good of an offense.
I mean, he's had some pretty decent PPR games. He's just been kind of roller coaster
here. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless something arises where I really need that spot, but I'm probably not dropping. But yeah, Sanders has been a big surprise this year. I always forget he started at Pittsburgh. I just picture him with the Broncos. But yeah, and Allen's looking for him in the end zone. That's huge. He's had two touchdown games, a little fluky, but at the same time, Allen's looking for him.
I wouldn't call it fluky. I would say that he's just in general a good red zone target. He showed that in Denver and in San Francisco.
That's true, but two multi-touchdown games are
true. Fair enough.
But at the same time, you could average it out to 4 single touchdown games, and it wouldn't seem the same. But anyway, he's shown it. He's been consistent. He's been consistent across every game: the targets, receptions, yards, and then sprinkling in those touchdowns. So I think it's just people see. They just assume he can't still do it because he's been in the league for so long, I think name value goes both ways. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't interested in Emmanuel Sanders when the season started at all. I am now, but I wasn't when it started. So he's been a great surprise.
Nate, who is your sure thing sleeper of the week to round us out? I don't think you guys really have any beaches in Colorado, but you guys have like some nice lakes, right?
Yeah, and we have some lakes with some minimal. Actually, no, that lake starts in Colorado, bleeds into New Mexico. The beaches are all in New Mexico.
Okay.
We don't have any beaches, but we go to Mexico all the time. That has beautiful beaches.
There you go.
So there you go. Life's a beach. Fantasy football is another B word some days. So my sleeper of the week. This is not a name I thought I'd be mentioning this season. While I love his talent, Davis Mills. He's been nothing short of awful most of this season, but then he comes out last week and the dude drops he's 21 to 29 for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns against New England team that classically destroys the soul of any rookie quarterback that goes up against them and has been a pretty good defense this season. He was efficient. He got touchdowns. He had the yardage. I was impressed with what Davis Mills did. Now we're going up against an Indianapolis team that averages giving up roughly 25 points a game to the quarterback position. We saw how Lamar Jackson carved them up last night, and I'm not comparing Davis Mills to Lamar Jackson, but the opportunity is there for him to spread the ball out and for him to have another high-scoring game. If you're hurting at quarterback, if you need something or someone, let's say that you roster Jimmy Garoppolo and then Trey Lance, and now you've got a bye week and you're just desperate at quarterback. Yeah. Davis Mills is a guy that I'd fire up this week against Indy. I'm not saying you want to roster him all season long, but in this week 6 matchup against Indy, I think it's a solid play.
Yeah, like if you have Russell Wilson and Matt Ryan, let's say, in the 2 QB league, and you lost Wilson and Ryan's on bye. Yeah, another guy, 2 last names. I didn't think I'd be talking about him. I'm now excited. I grabbed him in very late in a few rookie drafts. Just like, oh, why not?
Right.
But yeah, Tennessee. The way you attack Tennessee is through the air. Indianapolis. They've been good against the run, but they have been atrocious against the pass. So,
big plays.
I see it. We'll see. It's gonna get desperate out there in the next few weeks for sure. With guys, so
yep.
I
love that, Nate. I think that's definitely in like a 2 QB super flex league. I think there's some Davis Mills viability for sure, guys. I do want to move forward to our final segment of the show. We're gonna leave the beach behind, and we're gonna head into some weekly advice.
Weekly advice.
All right, guys. So the great thing about weekly advice is this is our time. We can talk a little bit about fantasy football, a little bit about lifestyle advice. So, guys, I'm just going to get right into it. Last night, after already a story releasing last week, last night, the New York Times, they released a story that included quotes from John Gruden's emails that were shared with a variety of business partners, including Bruce Allen, who was let go by the Washington football team last season after some controversy. In these emails, Gruden showed signs of racism, homophobicness, and misogynism. And guys, it's just, if you actually go and read the article, it's pretty sad to see the things he said. And it was definitely tough for this news to break during Monday Night Football, considering John Gruden was the face of Monday Night Football with Jaws for how long. So super disappointing. Obviously, Mark Davis, Raiders owner, meets with him. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but the result of it is John Gruden resigns. I think it's 4 years into his 10-year contract, leaves $60 million on the table. We'll talk about the fantasy impact of this, but kind of just want to get your guys' reaction to this, as a person. I mean, because I'm bummed out about it. I really like John Gruden. I liked his press conferences. I don't know about his coaching all the time, but I really enjoyed his personality, and to see the type of person he is, definitely don't want to ever, see any of his content anymore.
So I'm with you. I loved him on ESPN. I loved his analysis. Really enjoyed him as a broadcaster and a personality. Didn't care for his coaching. Didn't understand why he came back to the NFL. And I'm now glad to see him gone. We don't need people like that in professional sports or in any level where they're part of the public eye, because it gives, if he had kept his job, then we're talking about, so that's okay. So this is okay. It's not okay. And he shouldn't be in the league, nor should he be broadcasting anywhere. He quit because he got caught. Don't think that he actually feels bad about it. He didn't show any. His statement was simply I'm embarrassed I got caught, and now I have to resign.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm walking away. There was no remorse in that statement. He doesn't understand. He tried to defend the comments about DeMaurice Smith by saying, well, that's just, I say people who are liars have flapping lips. That's clearly not what the comment was. So now you're lying to try and make yourself look better. That's not what I meant, guys. That's not, we know what you meant. So good riddance. He should be out of the league. And I hope this is a lesson to anybody who thinks this kind of behavior is okay. It's not. You don't get to talk about people like that even if you think it's private. It's not okay. It's not right.
Yeah, I mean, Nate, you basically said everything I was going to say. There's just no place for that. But I also want to bring something else up. I've seen, and I mean, I choose not to, regardless of who, what, where, when, why, when this type of thing comes out. I typically choose not to go public and spew out my thoughts on Twitter. So there's that. But I have seen that going around. That's what Twitter, that happens on Twitter. And I've seen a lot of back and forth about selective rage and if this, then this, and blah, 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 blah. And I just want to make it absolutely clear that one does not have to publicly shame every single person that has done something wrong to be able to have an opinion about John Gruden. Okay? It honestly has gotten exhausting trying to keep up with how many people end up being douchebags like John Gruden. So just wanted to put that out there. I've seen some of that going around, and I don't think if you haven't publicly shamed yourself, every single person that this has happened to, doesn't mean you can't speak on John Gruden. It's the same thing that happens in politics with what about over here? Hey, look over here. It's like, no, we're talking about this right now. We're not talking about that. We're talking about this. This is a well-known public figure who said awful things about people. And he's suffering consequences. Lindelian's put out a great tweet. I agree with it fully. This is not cancel culture. This is consequences. You can't just go to cancel culture anytime somebody gets called out like this. And because you say the word cancel culture, that means that it's fine. No, sorry. So anyway, I have feelings about it. And the things he said, I mean, it's just, no. There's no place for it.
Yeah, 100% with you guys on this. I mean, for everyone in the world, we need to be better. And, you know, hats off to the folks at the New York Times, the Big J journalism being done there. I mean, done cover this and get someone out of the league who does not deserve to be in the league. Hats off to them. Guys, from the fantasy football angle of this, obviously Rich Bisaccia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right because I really have not heard it pronounced. I've just read his name. He's a longtime special teams coordinator in the NFL. He's been with the Raiders since 2018. He's going to be the interim head coach for the rest of the year, it looks like, guys. There's not a lot of information on this guy, what his tendencies are. I mean, he's a special teams coordinator for crying out loud, but we do know he's a smart coach. He's climbed the ranks throughout the college ranks. He spent some time in some big FCS schools. So I'm expecting hopefully some good things from Rich. What do you guys think? What are you doing with your Raiders players right now? Like, if we're being honest, I mean, the only Raiders players that in a single QB league that we're really talking about on a consistent basis, it's Darren Waller, it's Josh Jacobs. And if you want to flirt with guys like Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards, maybe they're out there. But what are you guys doing with your Raiders players? Because I've already been trying to sell Josh Jacobs if I had him. I don't have him, but if I am, I'm trying to probably use this as – because they have Kenyon Drake there. Kenyon Drake's been brilliant in his limited opportunities. I think so, at least in the pass-catching game. Where are you guys at on the Raiders here?
I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, I also have no idea about this interim coach. Honestly, the only pieces I have personally, and I know that's not necessarily relevant to the people watching, but is Henry Ruggs and Hunter Renfrow. Those are the only two pieces of the Raiders I really have. I didn't end up with Waller anywhere, and I'm not a Jacobs guy. Take that back. I do have Kenyon Drake on one team. But I don't think you can do anything but just see what happens. Like, I don't, it's one of those weird situations where you can't really sell high. Like, there's not really a sell high opportunity. I mean, maybe with Darren Waller just based on name value, but I don't want to sell Darren Waller. So for me, it's hold on and see what happens. I mean, this just happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just happened. So, I mean, if Hunter Renfrow potentially was a guy that's out there on waivers that I might have been looking at, maybe I steer towards somebody else just with the uncertainty. But guys already on my team, I'm just keeping them.
I'm same as Scott. I'm not doing much different. I don't, like you said, Seth, we're really talking about Waller, Josh Jacobs, maybe Kenyon Drake, maybe Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs. But really, for the most part, in the leagues that most people are playing in, it's Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is already someone most people are trying to move off of. Darren Waller is someone I will never move off of. Not ever.
Yeah.
So I don't think it changes much. Yeah, I don't think it changes. I think if anything, we're hoping that by the end of the season, some of these guys have more value and are actually getting used appropriately by the new coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, it could swing in Josh Jacobs' favor. He hasn't really got a lot of pass-catching love so far, but maybe that changes here with the new regime. We'll see what happens, guys. It's going to be – there's really no telling what it's going to be these next couple of weeks. Guys, before we round it out here, I did just want to bring one more thing to light here. All right, we do have one question I do want to touch on real quick. From Mentality here on YouTube, should I trade Marquise Brown for Darryl Henderson? Nate, go ahead.
No.
I'm going to say no too.
I mean, for me, I would need to see what the rosters look like. If you need a running back and you're pretty set at wide receiver, I don't think that's an unfair trade. Darryl Henderson's somebody I was wrong about. I did not think he would get RB2 usage. He has. He's been solid, but Brown has. He's been so above expectation that I would lean towards Marquise Brown here. But like I said, if I'm pretty strong at receiver and need a running back, that's a trade I'd be willing to look at.
With how good Marquise Brown has been and with Darrell Henderson's injury risk, I think I maybe want a different, better running back for Marquise Brown.
That's a good.
Or I'm moving a different receiver.
Yeah.
To get Darryl Henderson.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a good point with Marquise Brown right now. Like, if you're looking like this, in the whole sell high, buy low thing, this is This is probably the height of his value has ever been.
Yep.
So that's a good point. If you're looking to move Marquise Brown or somebody's looking to get him from you, ask for more.
Agreed. PPR wide receiver 5 so far, Marquise Brown on the season. His value's an all-time high. We think you can get more than Darryl Henderson mentality. Guys, I want to
run Lamar Jackson all of a sudden. Slinging the ball.
Absolutely.
So fun.
Guys, I want to talk about something that's not as fun. Round it out here with Urban Meyer and the Jacksonville Jaguars mess it's been this season. Obviously, if you guys have been around social media or the sports news the last week, you probably already know this is kind of old news at this point, but we didn't get a chance to touch on it last week. Urban Meyer, after their Thursday night game against the Bengals in Ohio 2 weeks ago, did not fly back with a team, was caught at a bar on camera. Let's just say he was at his own bar. It's like the Urban Meyer tap room, I think, or something like that in Columbus. And he was caught in a party scene with a young lady near him. That's all I'll say. If you want to watch the video, it's out there. There's a couple different angles.
Yes.
That was very diplomatic, Seth.
Yes. She was adjacent to him.
And
he could have been Santa Claus.
Yeah, and we're hearing it's a co-ed too, like a woman in college, so that's never great. Regardless of the morals of this, guys, because I mean, they're obviously paying him how much money a year to sit at home and coach and think about football, and I feel like it's kind of almost unethical not even to fly back with your team in a way. So I guess do you guys have any thoughts on the personal side of this before we discuss the fantasy mess it's been Jacksonville?
So as you know, I spent the last weekend in Ohio, literally 2 hours out. I flew into Columbus and drove 2 hours outside of Columbus. And in said family reunion on Saturday, there was actually one person who missed the reunion because they haven't missed a game, an Ohio State game in person since 1985.
Wow.
So this is what Jen's Ohio family, who literally on Saturday were all wearing all red and all Ohio State stuff. The men, the women, the children, didn't matter. They all said the same thing. This is, first of all, classic Urban Meyer. It's not shocking to anybody who's an Ohio State fan and has been privy to what goes on that campus. And two, what the hell was he doing taking an NFL job? He didn't know what he was doing. He had no business being in the NFL because he doesn't know how to live the NFL life. College is different. You get forgiven for so many sins on a campus because you're winning football games. The NFL is a completely different beast.
Yeah. Good point, Nate. Definitely two different atmospheres.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you don't leave your team behind on a Sunday after a game.
Yeah. I mean, that it just was bizarre all the way around. I mean, I've always kind of thought Urban Meyer is a slimy weirdo, and so that hasn't really changed after all of this. But just some of those things that are, I mean, the getting familiar with a co-ed aside, which that's not something to ignore. I mean, he's got a wife, and so do I, and I don't do that. But the other side of it too, like staying behind and not flying back with your team after getting beat to go 0-5. I mean, it's been just kind of a nightmare with him ever since he took that job at that with the Jaguars. And Nate, you've been ringing the bell on this for a while now.
Yeah.
And me personally, I was like, well, let's see, but
yeah,
I think I've seen enough. I don't think he has any idea what he's doing.
He'll be
USC. And just as a person, he's just, I don't know, slimy weirdo.
Yeah. I think one of the things for me was when he retired for health concerns, and then the Ohio State job opened up, and he was like on it, and he took the job like that. Oh, wait, my dream. I don't know, man. Something like you said, Scott, something about that dude is slimy.
Being a younger person, not really knowing Urban Meyer until his days at Florida with Tim Tebow, some of this is more news to me, I guess, honestly. I've known him as just a coach of great teams and a Fox Sports analyst that I really admired as well. So it's definitely disappointing in that aspect. And I think it translates almost directly to this Jaguars team when it comes to fantasy football. Like, realistically, I mean, in a 2-quarterback league, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be fine to roster. He's going to have somewhere around 16 to 22 points a game. But I think outside of him, like Laviska, you can flex him if you dare. Same with Marvin Jones. But I mean, James Robinson's the guy to have, and outside of that, I don't want any of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I said something similar today. I mean, once there was a game where Jamal Agnew out-targeted Laviska Shenault, I can't start Shenault anymore. Like, how I started
DJ Chark on too.
There was the 1 week where he had 99 yards. I did start him that week, and that felt pretty good. But other than that, it's been, you look at your fantasy score, and he's got 1 or 2 points. And I don't have any trust that that's going to change, or if it does, if it's going to be in any way consistent enough for me to be confident in starting him at all. James Robinson is the diamond in the rough there. I was wrong on. I mean, ETN got hurt, but still, James Robinson has looked fantastic in a less than ideal, atmosphere there in Jacksonville. And good point, Trevor Lawrence. In a 2 QB league, I'm still rolling him out there as my QB too. But other than that, it's just too big of a mess.
Yep,
it's just too big of a mess.
Yep, you can't trust any of these guys.
Well, and I'm starting to be concerned with some of the things Nate brought up. It's like worried about unless Urban is out of there soon, it's potentially going to curb or ruin someone like Laviska Shenault's career.
Yep.
Or at least start him off, way behind where he would have been.
And Trevor Lawrence too.
Mm-hmm.
You start a rookie kid seeing ghosts that early in their career. Look at Sam Darnold. It took him getting out of New York and actually getting an offensive line and weapons to be able to do anything. I mean, we could be looking at a situation where if Urban Meyer hangs out for too long there, if they give him a second season, which I don't even think he finishes this season, but we're talking about Trevor Lawrence needing to be saved.
Yeah, guys, we will see how it plays out down here in Jacksonville throughout the season. We're monitoring this situation. We're monitoring the Las Vegas situation as well. If you want to keep up with us, we're on the Twitter bird. I'm at _SethFF. Nate is at JanateJackFF. And, of course, Scott's at MunderDifflinFF. A lot of FFs going around. If you guys want to follow the show, it's at IVT_media. Guys, we got columns coming out, YouTube series, podcast, short video clips, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you guys are, we're there, man. We're going to keep bringing you the feel good, the fantasy advice throughout the rest of the season. Nate, Scott, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for everything you guys do. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.
See you next week, buddy.
Have a good week 6.
The In Between Fantasy Football Podcast.
The one thing that really sets us apart here is we're not afraid to talk about other things that maybe aren't super